Queen Victoria's son, the royal tragedy. History chose to forget. Behind the gilded facade of Queen Victoria's glorious reign, a heartbreaking secret was hidden in plain sight. This isn't just a story about the British Empire at its dazzling peak. It's the story of a prince whose entire existence was a battle. A prince with a brilliant mind and a cursed bloodline. This is the story of her youngest son, a man whose life was a secret war against his own body, and a prince the royal family seemed determined to forget. Chapter 1. The Curse in the Cradle. In an era defined by power and empire, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert were at the head of a seemingly perfect family. Their 9 children were symbols of royal stability and domestic virtue. But on April 7, 1853, with the birth of their 8th child, Leopold George Duncan Albert, a shadow fell over the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Victoria, who famously disliked childbirth, had controversially used the new anesthetic, chloroform, to ease her labor, a symbol of modern progress for a fleeting moment. But the initial joy soon gave way to a quiet, creeping fear. As a toddler, Leopold was different. He was a delicate child who bruised with terrifying ease. A minor fall that might leave another child with a bump would leave the young prince with dark bruises and painfully swollen joints. The royal nursery, once a place of laughter, became a space of constant, anxious vigilance. The diagnosis, when it finally came, was devastating: hemophilia. In the 19th century, it was a mysterious and terrifying condition, little understood beyond its brutal symptoms. Blood that refused to clot, internal bleeding that could cripple or kill from even the most trivial of injuries. The illness, passed down from mother to son, became known as the royal disease, a genetic curse originating with Victoria herself. In her private journals, the Queen's anguish was clear. "No one knows the constant fear I am in about him," she wrote. This fear would come to define Leopold's entire existence. He was at once her beloved, intelligent boy, and a living symbol of a flaw in the royal bloodline, a source of private guilt and public secrecy. Chapter 2. The Gilded Cage. While his brothers were all destined for military careers, that path was forever barred to Leopold. An accidental cut or a fall from a horse could be a death sentence. So, instead of the parade ground, his world became the library. His body may have been a prison, but his mind was limitless. By many accounts, Leopold was the most intelligent and intellectually curious of all Victoria's children. He devoured books, excelled at chess, and charmed philosophers and poets like Alfred, Lord Tennyson. He found a taste of freedom at Oxford University, attending Christ Church, where he became president of the University Chess Club. It was a brief glimpse of a normal life, a world where he was judged for his intellect, not his fragility. He thrived there, even earning an honorary doctorate and befriending some of the greatest minds of the age, like John Ruskin and Lewis Carroll. It's often been rumored that he fell for Alice Liddell, the real-life inspiration for Alice's adventures in Wonderland, though any real romance is unproven. But the shadow of his mother was never far away. After Prince Albert's tragic death, Victoria's protectiveness of Leopold intensified into an obsession. She saw his illness as a way to keep him by her side, a permanent companion, an unofficial secretary to fill the void her husband had left. She repeatedly refused his requests for official appointments in Canada or Australia, positions that would have given him the independence he desperately craved. He was her darling boy, but he was also her captive. The palace was both his home and his gilded cage, and he was starting to push against the bars. Chapter 3. A Secret Rebellion. Stifled by his mother's control and frustrated by his physical limits, Leopold looked for escape. Denied the conventional outlets of a prince, he carved out his own, often in the shadows. He became a patron of the arts and literature, using his status to champion causes and create a meaningful public role for himself. But whispers followed the prince through London's gaslit streets. Persistent rumors painted a picture of a man rebelling against the suffocating purity of the Victorian court by frequenting the city's underbelly, searching for a taste of the unrestrained life he was denied. He wasn't just fighting his disease, he was fighting the role of the royal invalid. His greatest act of rebellion, however, was his search for love. Marriage was his only real shot at independence, but finding a wife was a challenge. Because of his hemophilia, many royal families were hesitant. After several rejections, he finally found his match in Princess Helena of Waldeck and Pyrmont, a well-educated and compassionate woman who knew all about his condition and was willing to face the risks with him. They married in April 1882, and for a brief shining moment, Leopold was truly happy. He wrote to a friend that he was mad with joy. In 1883, their happiness grew with the birth of their daughter, Alice. It seemed the tragic prince had finally found his fairy tale ending. Leopold's struggle to live and love against all odds is a powerful, often overlooked part of royal history. If you're finding this story as compelling as we do, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more forgotten histories from behind palace walls. Your support helps us to keep telling these important tales. Chapter 4: The Final Fall. By the winter of 1884, Leopold's health was fragile. The cold English climate worsened the chronic joint pain that was a constant feature of his hemophilia. On his doctor's orders, he traveled to the warmer south of France, to a residence in Cannes called the Villa Nevada. His wife, Helena, was pregnant with their second child and was advised not to travel, but she urged him to go for the sake of his health. On March 27th, the tragedy that had stalked Leopold his entire life finally caught him. He slipped on a staircase at the villa, falling and injuring his knee while also hitting his head. For a healthy man, it would have been a minor, if painful, accident. For Leopold, it was catastrophic. He seemed to rally at first, but the fall had likely caused a slow cerebral hemorrhage, a bleed on the brain. In the early hours of March 28, 1884, Prince Leopold died. He was just 30 years old. The news shattered the royal family. Queen Victoria was inconsolable. "Another awful blow has fallen upon me," she wrote in her journal. "My beloved Leopold, that bright, clever son, has been taken from us. To lose another dear child is too dreadful." The bright, sensitive boy she had both cherished and smothered was gone. Helena, now a widow at just 23, would give birth to their son, Charles Edward, 4 months after her husband's death. The son Leopold would never know was born healthy, without the disease that had claimed his father. Chapter 5: The Forgotten Legacy. So why is Prince Leopold so often a footnote in the grand story of Victoria's reign? Perhaps it's because his life was an uncomfortable one. It was a constant, painful reminder of the royal disease, a genetic flaw in the very fabric of the monarchy. The whispers of his rebellion didn't fit the pristine image the crown wanted to project. His true legacy, however, is written in the bloodlines of Europe. His daughter Alice was a carrier of the hemophilia gene, passing it to her own son, who also died tragically from the disease. Through Victoria's other children, the gene spread to the royal houses of Spain, and most famously, Russia, where it played a devastating role in the downfall of the Romanovs. But Leopold's legacy is more than a genetic curse. His life was a quiet, relentless rebellion against the hand he was dealt. He refused to be defined by his illness. He fought for an education, for a voice, for a family, and for a life of meaning. He was the forgotten son, the tragic prince, the brilliant mind trapped in a fragile body. His story is a poignant reminder that behind the grandeur of history, royalty is human, and it bleeds just like everyone else. Please subscribe, like, and comment on our video. This gesture is a great help and will give inspiration to creators like me. Thank you so much. God bless.